And welcome to episode 8 of Tech and Test. With me today is Laveena Ramchandani, who's a quality engineering manager at easyJet. Hi, Laveena.
Hi, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for hopping on to the Tech and Test podcast.
Thank you so much. Really excited about this.
Awesome. So, could you explain to the Tech and Test audience a little bit about you? Who is Laveena?
Yeah. So, about me. I've basically studied computer science. I think it's now nearly 10 years ago. It makes me
Right.
really old. But I never studied testing in there, and I landed in my first ever job as a tester. So I had no idea what I was going in for, but I felt like there's a project, and it was for this consultancy back in the day, CGI. And I was like, do you know what? Let's give it a go because it seems interesting. The client's pretty interesting, and let's see what happens. And since then, it's been nearly 11 years this year that I'm in the software testing industry. And just wanted to say that we don't really learn about this at all, like at universities. It's just a little bit about white box, black box, and that's it. And then it's up to you how you sort of explore it. So, really excited to be in this field. It has been an exciting journey in terms of jumping into different roles as well, different companies. And yeah, we can talk more about that in the session.
Sure. Awesome. So you studied computer science. I guess you knew you wanted to work in this sort of space in computing and maybe as a software engineer. Was that your thought originally?
No, actually, I wanted to become a teacher.
Oh
So
wow. Okay.
literally one or 2 weeks before the Freshers Week, I don't know what happened in my head. I felt like, you know what, IT is the next big thing. And I just rang the university, which was Queen Mary, University of London. And I was like, is there any chance to go into business computing or computer science? And they were like, yes, there are spaces. And I just made a switch literally between one day, which I think I'm pretty thankful to whatever happened to me. It must have been some blessing in disguise, but this world has given me a lot in terms of knowledge, a lot in terms of community. And it's not just about learning, but it's about giving back as well, which is what I do quite a lot now.
I see. So what advice would you give to your say you started your career 10 years ago, right? 11 years ago. So what advice would you give to that person if Lavina was starting today?
My advice would be part of a community. We've got a wide community in software testing. Be part of it, learn from people, have network with people, and basically, there's so much in the community that will help you and support you in your testing role. When I was a tester for my first ever job, I had no idea there were meetups or communities, and I struggled a bit because I first of all didn't understand what software testing was until it was 2 years or something into that job. Then I started understanding a bit like, okay, I understand what I'm trying to do, and I understand how I'm supporting or helping my client with all of this. So it was really it was very difficult, but now we've got all of this support out there, so it's best to use it and use with the right people. There's loads of people out there to mentor you as well and coach you into this role. But don't ever feel like testing is like so many people join the testing world and then feel like, no, I don't think this is for me. I think you need to sort of be in the right sort of, um, how shall I put it, in the right sort of, not position, but within the community, I would say, because then you will feel like, okay, I've got enough support. I know exactly I can ask a question and I will get the right answer and I can go and showcase this at my work. It won't make you feel uncomfortable or have the imposter syndrome because I have seen people switch jobs very quickly from a tester to something else.
Right.
And I feel like there's been a lack of knowledge for that. And this was many years ago as well. So now when we have the help, use it and you'll feel more comfortable. And of course, having a software testing mentor helps a lot as well because someone who's had abundance of knowledge for many years, it just helps them build a better confidence in that other person who you're mentoring as well. So that's what I would say. Use enough support that's out there. There's so much learning online as well. So that's what I would suggest.
Awesome. No, very good advice. I think, what do you think actually are the key attributes that make a good tester, or I don't know what the term is these days, like SDET, software
Yeah.
engineering test,
Yeah,
something
there's loads
related.
of times. I think the best quality attributes, in my opinion, would be your soft skills, obviously, that you've got that communication, you can ask a lot of questions because I know when I was a tester, I was very shy, but I
Right,
always had these questions, always burning questions inside me, and then someone would happen to ask that question in the meeting. But many times I wouldn't know what to do. And because I was shy, I had the imposter syndrome always. So I think communication is really important. Listening as a tester is important as well, because of course, if we listen of what is
mm,
required, if we deliver the right thing, the good quality product from our side and as a team as well. Uh, Apart from that, I think the big thing that a tester should have is a quality mindset.
right,
Basically, what I mean by that is someone who is willing to bring that change, someone who's willing to sort of test those edge cases and find these annoying bugs that you can solve and make a difference, and basically avoid them from going into production. Someone who's really curious, someone who wants to sort of make a difference. And of course, with the difference, bring in loads of different types of testing. I say, for instance, try if you join a company and you feel like you're being involved a bit later on,
right.
try collaborate, join, basically collaborate with the team a bit earlier on because you never know what you might find in that session that would aid your testing. So I wouldn't put a lot of attributes, but it's just curiosity, willing to communicate, listen, and also willing to sort of showcase the quality mindset.
Awesome. So that makes sense. So you've described, like, the good attributes for an individual contributor, right? When you're sort of like a test engineer in a team. And I noticed, from looking at your LinkedIn and reading about you, you're currently a quality engineering manager, right? So
Correct.
you've moved into management.
Yeah.
What made you make that transition? Like, what was the impetus for moving into management, or what excited you about management to move into that space?
I think I really get motivated with the jumps or promotions. That really motivates me. And I thought the natural career progression for me would be I started as an analyst, then became a senior, then became a lead, um, and then became a couple of times I was a lead, and then I got the manager role. So I personally feel that I had no sort of plan as such,
Right.
but I would always want to sort of start from the very basic and then grow slowly into it. Of course, I wish I could still be a tester because management has a lot of work. I wouldn't lie, but it's actually fulfilling as well because management is not just about managing projects, managing the testing side of things, is managing people as well, which I think comes really naturally for me to speak to my direct reports, mentor them or coach them regarding with their career development and everything. So I really enjoy that aspect, and I didn't know this until I became a manager. And my career progression has been so I worked with quite a few consultancies, and I also worked in transport and now in airline. I think it was quite gradual, but the manager one was really fast. So I had joined the company, and basically I worked as a lead there for a couple of months, and I think about 6 months, and then I got promoted to manager. So that felt really fulfilling, and it felt like all these years of work. Now I can
Mm,
actually spend time in strategic thinking, thinking about how to strategize testing in a certain area, trying to work on a definition of done or see how a team actually works and define ways of working and see if we can be more innovative or we can try and be more collaborative with other teams and things like that. So it was really nice to do a lot of testing and then
mm.
now sit and think how to improve things, how to showcase, how to sort of sell testing for the teams that feel that testing it is not the right thing for them, for example. So I think I'm enjoying my journey, and it's been a really blessed journey.
I see. Um, yeah, so thinking about like teams and looking at this strategy, what how do you sort of foster a culture of quality in like within a new team? So like or maybe a team that's been existing for a while, and maybe they haven't quite been doing testing as much or quality, looking at quality. How do you sort of tackle that? What do you think brings the team on board with a new strategy or a new initiative?
So the way I think that would help with a new strategy or new initiative would be to basically provide the knowledge and the skill set. I personally believe sometimes when we come up with strategies and just sort of say, this is what we're going to do, people are not ready for that change.
Mm,
So we want to sort of educate the team. We don't want to be those kind of people who just come and showcase so many things and then provide nothing in return. Because I have seen this with my friends. They've told me stories and they've said that because a previous manager wasn't the same, they don't
mm,
look at me the same way. They
right.
just, it's another person, the same person. So I learned from that situation of my friends and the community, and I was like, I don't want to be like that. um yes, of course, if you want to bring change, you have to sort of showcase why you want to bring that change. How is this going to add value? How is this going to sort of change your role slightly or add few more responsibilities on your role? So it's all about education, I think. Educate them to the point where they feel comfortable to sort of work in this simple thing like automation, right? Many people feel uncomfortable still thinking about automation and to learn coding or things like that. But every tester does not need, it's not a requirement for a tester to know how to code. They could do the other side of things of automation, like create acceptance criterias, create the BDDs, for example. So it's about talking about all of this, is educating to make them feel comfortable that there are other options, you know. It's not just this is what I want to do. We want to shift left and we're going to do it. So there is a process, I would say, and you have to define the process very, what's the right word here? I think be empathetic
Mm.
towards your engineers, I would say.
Got it. Yeah, it's a valid point. Sometimes I've worked in organizations where testers who have been at an organization for a long time and they've learned the product really well, but there's a strong focus on automation and to make sure everyone's coding. And I have seen some testers struggle through that journey, right? Because they
Yeah.
don't necessarily want to code. Um, but as we're moving into a world where there's more like AI driven code that's been generated, right? It does make me wonder what the requirements of a test engineer are these days when there's so much technology is increasing, like in terms of the technical stacks we work with, and AI as well, right? AIs that are also doing code reviews, and I don't know, it does open up the question of, do we need to code as test engineers? And I think this question will always keep coming up because
I would just say it depends, really. It depends on your how, like what your ambition is, what your role is. If
yeah.
you're keen on being technical, you want to code, you want to pair up with developers, of course there's always this support, and it's always well respected that, you know, this person was really manual tester and they've shifted to become an automation tester or an estet. So there is always that support there and it's celebrated always. But of course there might be someone who doesn't feel comfortable. Same with AI. People are not feeling comfortable to use it. But
Mm,
in my opinion, the tester's job will be there because there are so many things a tester could do, such as the look and feel of something. I don't think AI can still tell you that. And also, sort of AI will support what a tester does. So I wouldn't say don't use AI tools. I would say use AI tools to support your testing and then spend the time that AI has helped you to do more strategic thinking. So that's,
yeah.
I would say they complement each other.
Yeah, so basically use AI as a tool to help you achieve more, right? To be
Yeah.
more productive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So switching gears a little bit. So I've noticed that you've done a lot of like blogging and speaking and coaching and a whole bunch of things. What advice would you give to someone who has not who's not done a talk at a conference before, or hasn't written a blog, or hasn't, really sort of done something like this, right? They've just done their day job. And what advice would you give to someone who maybe is on the fringe of maybe starting that blog or speaking at a conference? So what would you tell that person?
I would just say, just do it, literally, because that feeling, the gratitude, and the way the community sort of supports you is just beautiful. I still remember my first ever time on stage. It was at Test Bash in Brighton. It was a 99-second talk, and I was like, do you know what? I've come this far for a conference. Why not go on the stage and just say thank you to the organizers and the
Mm,
speakers? Because it's just, it's such a great thing conference organizers do. It takes a lot of
mhm.
time. It takes like throughout the year, they're just working hard to make sure that whatever they provide on the day is being taken really positively by everyone. So I just went on stage and I just literally said thank you and a few more sentences, and it felt so nice. Like I had no word. I don't think I have words to describe how I felt. It's just a beautiful feeling, and that's when I knew that, right, it's time to apply for conferences. And my first year was just reject, 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 reject. It's fine to be rejected because that means you just need to add a little bit more work to shine a bit more. That's all. You don't need to feel bad if you get rejected. It will happen, but it's a learning journey and you will get feedback. So use that feedback to make your talk or your blog better. And of course, don't ever fear from anything either. There's a lot of Slack channels, there's a lot of LinkedIn communities, there's obviously loads of software testers on LinkedIn and other social media where you can sort of ping any of us to sort of proofread or something for you. So will happily do that. And yeah, I would just say don't have that imposter syndrome. And if you do have it, it's okay. We are here to support you, and don't ever worry. Do it because you will see the response you will get. And I know sometimes certain blogs cause discussions, but it's your point of view. Of course, people will discuss because it's a forum of discussion. So take it in a positive way as well.
Yeah, no, that's really valid. I think I quite liked what you said about failure, right? Being a learning opportunity. We almost need to
Absolutely.
change that word
Yeah.
to a learning opportunity, because I think, with failure it can be anything, right? It could be, you didn't get that job, you didn't get that promotion, or that project didn't work out. But I think, it's easy for people to give up in those instances and go, oh, that didn't work, and take
Yeah.
it personally, right? But I think in this case, we need to have that growth mindset and focus on the positives, and you
Yeah.
can learn something from it and be better. So I think, yeah, I quite liked hearing that. That was quite
Yeah.
nice.
And I think one more thing to mention, conferences actually have this speaker support as well. So if your paper does get accepted, don't worry, you've got support. So it's, if this is the first time
Mm.
you're presenting, they will support you with your PowerPoint slides, if and how to be on stage as well. When you reach to the conference, there will be a specific area that you can go practice your talk. There will be some mentors to help you that you should maybe use more hand movements, more gestures, make a bit of a joke in between if you like, just to make the audience a bit more comfortable. So there is all this support there. So don't ever feel let down.
No, very good advice. I mean, I remember when I'd done my first talk at PyCon UK,
Mhm.
and you're at the front of the stage, and the room's quite empty, or like the theatre. It was in Cardiff City Hall. It's
Okay.
empty. Then loads of people start coming in, and you're at the front. And I had some tech issues as well, so I didn't have my laptop wasn't connecting, and
Uh,
um. But I think the cool thing with these conferences, like you said, there's always someone around that's there to support, right? Support the
yeah.
speaker, and I think it was quite, useful that I told people that this was my first talk at this size of conference. And yeah, I think the speaker gives you a bit of an introduction and says, this is Peter's first talk. Be nice.
Yeah, of course. Of course. And even in your introduction, you can just say it. So it's all good. People will support you. And you never know, watching you someone else might get the motivation as well. So never ever give up.
Definitely. Yeah. No, good. So switching like back to you actually, is there anything that, from your career, because you've had, over, some time in testing now, that stands out as being memorable or some achievement or something that really kind of something that's rewarding from your career that you kind of go, yeah, that was amazing. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. When I was working at Deloitte, I got the opportunity to be part of a data science project, actually two of them. And wow, that just that was so, so interesting.
mhm,
I didn't know that world existed. And because of that, I started my first ever talk and loads of
right.
blogs on that. So I spoke about it on podcasts as well, that we need more testers involved here because no one tests this. And
Mm,
the reason, obviously, I did tell my head off that I will only come to this company now if you let me be part of the what do you call it, a data science team. So I still remember my conversation. I was like, the only way I'll move is if I can still remain here because it's such an interesting area. There's so much to learn, and the data that we use, the shape of it, how could we make a sense of it because there's so much of it, and how do we know something's actually wrong? So it's all of these intricacies and all of that that I've been building in this team, and I'm really, really proud about that. And I've got a really, really amazing team that's so supportive of one another, and it's so good. It's just a very, very different area. And I would suggest to loads of people out there who are interested in the AI, ML, data science world, it's a really good sort of area to try testing and understand what models do and how do we train them, what goes in them. Is it necessarily the right thing that pops out once the sort of model's been ran? Because many times it's very stochastic. So how do we understand
mm,
it's actually the correct result, or no, 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 it's quite derailed. So we need to sort of focus on these things and whatnot. So there's obviously loads of support out there, support, no, resources, I would say, out there for you to play with this. There's Jupyter notebooks, there's libraries like with big companies sharing their data, and you can actually run models to see what you understand from them. They make beautiful graphs, so it's a really, really interesting one. And I think that's basically the breakthrough of my career. I really, really enjoyed that, and I continue to enjoy.
awesome. Yeah, and I think testing like these ML models, right, when you've got this stochastic behavior, like you said, that's non-deterministic,
Yeah.
does often when I'm in rooms and we're talking about this sort of behavior, everyone starts goes into dread of how do we test these sort of things, especially automatically in
Yeah.
some kind of automated test, right? What
Mhm.
sort of ranges do you put on things and
Absolutely. Thresholds and stuff like that. Yeah.
but it's constantly fascinating to test something like that, but also challenging at the same time.
Yes.
When you haven't got this deterministic behavior, right? Like, for example, how do you test a speech recognition model, right? That, you know, gives you back a transcription. Is the transcription correct? If you make some changes to the model, that you may get an improvement in the transcription.
Yeah.
So these kind of things have cropped up, and yeah, I can see how you find them fascinating and interesting, which kind of leads me on to how do you stay up to date with like your knowledge or um, you know just what kind of resources do you use? How do you stay relevant in the market? What kind of things do you do for that?
Yeah. So I love attending conferences, meetups. I listen to podcasts as well. That helps me learn. So whenever I'm on a walk, I'm listening to a podcast. It just really makes me think whilst I'm walking.
Sure.
So it's really interesting, and I would suggest everyone try attend a conference. You will see the difference. Speaking to people makes a massive difference. People remember you from conferences as well, and they reach
Mm,
out to you. So I would suggest try that. Of course, if you would like to learn online, you've got courses, different sort of boards that do different courses, and of course, the community is there. So if you did like someone's talk, you want to get to know a bit more how to bring it in your teams, you can definitely reach out to them and try and make a plan of how to bring it in your workplace. So that's what I would say. I can see books in your background, but I just don't get time to read anymore. Me and my husband were talking on holiday that we need to make some time to read at least a
Mm,
page every night.
mm.
So maybe we'll do that little project.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, we're in this world where there's a lot of information out there, right? Like whether it's on generated by LLM or it's an ebook, blog, whatever. I
Yeah.
think for me, I mean, some of these books are old, so they've predated the whole kind of new movement with LLMs, and but I still sometimes buy copies of books because I think it's to reduce my screen time, right? So
That's a good.
um
Yeah.
because I think the thing is, if you like stare at your screen and you try to read something on there, I'm very likely to be distracted. Because I think we live in this world where all these screens are trying to fight for your attention, right? They've all got these
Yeah.
algorithms everywhere to try. Attention is like the most thing that people, most biggest currency around, right? Getting
Yeah.
people's attention. So I think the best thing I can do is if I have a book, that's my attention, and just be disciplined. I'm going to read
Mhm.
this. And, it could be that you just read, like you said, one page a day, but it's that 1% better each day, right? If you do something.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So books, I definitely like them. And maybe too many of them. I think there's actually a word in Japanese for buying books that you haven't read yet. Like, you just keep stocking them up. And, but it's yeah, it's just one of my habits, and I think actually I was talking to someone where if you read something off paper,
Yeah.
you got more chance of retaining that information than if you were to read off a screen. And I think there's been some studies around it. So
That's interesting.
yeah, yeah. Someone at work we were sort of talking about books, and that topic came up. So yeah,
Yeah.
but don't
Yeah.
quote me on the study.
No, and loads of people I've heard they do this book sharing clubs as well, and just at workplaces I've actually seen it on LinkedIn where they talk about the books they're reading, and then other people have to read it for the next session. So that's really really good because otherwise no one would end up buying books. So it's good that we are sort of considering all of this, and I think it's fun as well. It makes you want to read then.
Definitely. Yeah, I think having an accountability partner is quite nice for something.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I've always wanted to do like these sort of like code katas, or like let's pick a leak code question and try to solve it together.
yeah,
But I often people are so busy focused on their work, and sometimes we haven't had that community as much in some companies I've worked at. But in other companies I've worked at, there's been a much more stronger sense of community, and we've been able to kind of run these workshops where we try to get everyone at the same level, right, on whatever it
yeah.
is. If
Mhm,
it's a
mhm.
new technology, new framework, or just ideas we want to discuss.
Yeah,
So I think that's quite nice when that happens.
yeah.
So Lavina, yeah, just kind of thinking about future trends, like where do you think like the whole testing in IT space, or like software testing will be in the next maybe 5-10 years? Like
Mhm.
how especially in that whole data science and ML space, like, do you think um that's going to be some skills that every tester needs to have in their toolbox, right? With
Yeah, yeah, I think it depends really. I mean, AI obviously will take up much of it. So there will be loads of things that AI is doing for us and MLOps and all of that. But we would still want testers and teams. We would still want to complement our testing with some sort of manual exploratory, for instance, and just sort of understand the system a bit more. I think personally, when you test a system manually, you feel like you find these intricacies and just random things you come to see, and you understand the product a bit more. But of course, if you're doing things repetitively and you know how this logic works, just AI can do it. But never ever stop sort of complementing it with some sort of manual testing. Of course, the trend is AI and data science and all of that, but I wouldn't say that testers won't exist in the next 10 years. I would say they would still be there and more of them. But it would be more, I personally feel it would be good to sort of see more testers work with devs, collaborate a bit more, especially with AI devs and things like that. Learn how this is basically providing value to us and whatnot. So I would say everyone doesn't have to know AI. Testers it don't need to know AI, but there will be a point where some tool or another will be working with AI. So have that knowledge, and it's a good to have in your toolkit, and it will definitely support you. But never ever give up on your manual side of things as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Lavina. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
for coming on the podcast. And there's been a lot of insightful like nuggets of information there that and tips that you've shared. And I can sense that it's come from your experience, and you've lived through those bits of tips. And yeah, it's great.
Thank you so much for having me, Peter. And I really hope many people out there who will listen to this might make them a slight difference, get them more motivated for conferences and speaking and blogging and learning AI to help
Sure,
testing.
definitely. And where can folks find you if they need to like want to reach out or just read your blogs?
Yes, I'm actually on LinkedIn, and I've got X as well, but LinkedIn is the main place they can find me at.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Lavina.
Thank you.